enough of that noise. Time for the B-Roll Boiz.
Hey guys, welcome to B-Roll Boiz. We are a podcast that talks about shitty-ass movies. My name is Justin.
Hi, I'm Harlan.
I am Wes.
And today we're going to talk to you about 2007 Spider-Man 3 from Sam Raimi.
But first, some introductions. Justin, what's your deal?
Yeah, what's your deal? What do you do?
Are you
We're talking about like job descriptions, or
I mean, are you a film snob?
Yeah, what do you do?
It's going well so far. Yeah, I'd say I'm relatively film snobby. I'm not a comic book guy. I've never read comic books. I have really no interest in them, so I'm really coming at all of these and any Marvel or DC movies from the perspective of just the movies itself, or just the movies themselves, nothing else. I don't know much about the characters outside of what I've seen from these movies. I watched all three of the original Spider-Man movies in theaters. I really like the first one. The second one I'm kind of okay with. The third one sucks my ass, but we'll get to that.
One
Is that
more
bad,
than
though?
two? What the fuck?
Yeah, I like one way more than two.
Way
What the
more
fuck
than
is wrong
two?
with you?
Yeah, like
Two kicks ass, man. All right, well, whatever.
two's all
Done
right.
that.
Well, yeah. He's heard us enough. Just
Next episode.
Stop him from talking.
Yes. How about you, Mr. Holiday?
I definitely used to be way more film snobby than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Any movie pre-2007 with Spider-Man 3, I'm pretty much an expert on, but I actually haven't been to the movies since 2007 because that's the day cinema died.
That's impressive.
This movie is an affront to God.
right.
Stay tuned for more. I am. I'm not what you would call a film snob or a cinephile in any way. I like cape shit, as they call it, and I read a lot of comic books. But I like to think I'm capable of separating my love for this medium for an ability to judge these movies on their own merits. So I don't know. Hold me to it.
I'm glad you said capable immediately after cape shit.
I meant that. All right, so you want to get into it?
Let's get into it. Let's crack this egg open. Justin, thoughts?
I mean, I will say that this came about at a particularly pivotal point in my life where up until this point, I was about 14 when this came out, and up until this point, it had always just been a treat to go to the movies. So there wasn't really an option to not like something. Every single thing that I saw, I liked to some degree because it was kind of like an amusement park for me. It was like, oh, it's a treat. I get to go see a movie. And then my mind shat it all out. But this, especially being a teenager, I watched this in the theater with my mom. We were both like, wow, this is fucking terrible. And it was either right before or right after the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out, and I thought that sucked ass too. So.
And you kind of realized you might hate movies.
I was like, wow, I don't like any of these.
I actually hate movies. I should make this my career.
I'm going to make movies so I can project about how shitty movies are.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I was about 11 when this movie came out, I think, and that was a little too young for me to have any sort of critique for this. I thought this movie was just dope, and then probably
you didn't have your Citizen Kane outline with you.
No, I did not. I wouldn't have been able to read it.
Fucking
You just carry a script around of Citizen Kane with you?
Yeah.
That's what I wrote my notes in.
2007, I was 17, and I was homeschooled, so pretty much my two options were go to the movies or jerk off.
So you did both at once.
Yes, I sat in the back row. I'm just saying.
Specifically to James Franco's burn scars in this movie. We'll get to that.
I apologize to every AMC janitor working between 2006 and 2011.
Oh, AMC, that was like bougie shit.
Yeah, not the back row.
Yeah, we paid $14 for prime time to go jerk off in Spider-Man 3.
I saw Spider-Man 3 and Walk Hard with Dewey Cox. And I think I also saw In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale. It was a great summer.
So getting back to Spider-Man 3, what we're all here for.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys
How did
took
you hear today?
so I'm gonna preface this with just where I stand on this movie. This movie is bad, but people will act like it's like one of the worst movies ever made.
I'm one of them.
I disagree. It's a bad movie, but it's not like a fucking. It's not an affront against humanity. It's.
I said affront to God, sir.
That yeah.
God and humanity are different.
It's a narratively very messy and overcrowded movie, but it's got some cool shit in there.
I kind of sit in between both of you. This is definitely on like the side of bad. Like out of 10, I'd give this about a 4.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like 3.5 to 4. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's not Cats, but again, this is definitely the worst of the Raimi movies. I also will say that I didn't see the new Spider-Man movies, the Tom Holland ones. I did see the Andrew Garfield ones, and those I both think are way worse than this.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think I would rather watch this like leaps and bounds more than Amazing Spider-Man. Like, at least this is fun bad, or I would call this fun bad. The other two are those are boring. Like, fall asleep. In the theater
one is just boring and bland, and 2 is just like it's like this, but like times 3. You know, it's just amped up. But anyway.
I saw both of those in theaters as well. The second one, I barely remember maybe like 5 seconds of it. I just hated my life the entire time I was in the theater.
I watched the second one alone in theaters. That was rough.
I got a lot to say about that movie, but next we'll save that for another episode sometime.
For a Spider-Man marathon, or Spider Marathon, if you will.
Ooh.
We'll jump more into the Spider-Verse.
We're supposed to talk about bad movies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we got off on Citizen Kane.
So Wes, so give us a little preview of how you feel about Spider-Man 3.
I don't like it.
All right, fair enough.
No, but like you said, it was overcrowded. 3 villains is way too much.
Yeah.
I think the casting choices are horrendous. There's only a couple people in there that I think are worthy of their parts. Yeah, that's right. That's right. No one else can see this, but he gave me a really stanky look.
I was very surprised at that, because if there's one thing I think that they nailed in the Raimi movies, it's the casting. I mean, J.K. Simmons alone as J. Jonah Jameson.
Well, I mentioned there being 2. He's one of them. And
Willem Dafoe. Rosemary Harris. I think they're all great, but that's just me. As for the villains, and that seems to be like a recurring problem with Spider-Man movies, like Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. It has too many goddamn villains. And, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's because, Spider-Man has such a classic rogues gallery. They're just, eager to use them all. Or, more likely, they're probably just eager to sell a lot of toys.
Well, they kind of did the exact opposite, because Doc Ock was supposed to originally be in the first one. But Sam Raimi kind of thought it was a little too convoluted, I guess.
Oh, he wanted to have him and...
so they put him to the side,
made the right call.
Then Doc Ock made it to the second movie. Huh. But that being said, Sam Raimi also didn't write the first 2. And I think that's where Spider-Man 3 really falls short. Because Spider-Man 3 has that really awkward, just kind of black comedy nature to it that Sam Raimi's known for.
Yeah.
And he's never really made a superhero movie before, unless you want to loosely count Darkman, which I don't. But how he got that, they had a bunch of people attached to it, and Sam Raimi somehow got it because he just likes Spider-Man. That's I've been a Spider-Man fan my whole life. I have a bunch of comics. I've watched the cartoons, movies, everything. That's if someone came up to me and was like, hey, do you want to direct the movie? It's probably not a great idea.
Maybe. But I will say that's a big part of why I love, Spider-Man 2 so much, is especially having reread the Lee and Ditko run, and then watching it right after, I was like, man, this really does, in a lot of ways, feel lifted right off of it. But anywho.
I do think that this is a good continuation of the other 2, and that the tone is very similar, but I think that the things that were more or less charming in the first 2 movies kind of start to fall in on themselves here. Because the first 2, I would say, are very, as lame as it sounds, earnest. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of heart behind it. It's a lot of friendship conquers all, and you know,
Everyone's just a dick in this movie.
Tobey Maguire's got like such an expressive face, and he looks like a little snotty baby, even though he's like 35 in this. And yeah, the corniness just kind of started to fall in on itself, and I think by that point people were sick of it, especially since we had what, like 5 years of this Spider-Man by this point.
Yeah.
So it felt like it was getting long in the tooth. Like by the time this movie came around, everyone was like, okay, yeah, we're kind of over it now. And then they made 800 more Spider-Man movies, and I shit blood. So
I mean, didn't this movie do financially really well?
I think so.
I would have to imagine.
I don't remember. I don't know off the top of my head.
I would have to.
They definitely made a profit. I don't know how much it made, but
yeah, it didn't bomb like The Amazing Ones did.
And I like how you chose to not watch the 2 best ones, the ones with Tom Holland, by the way.
Because I've dropped out of those movies by this point.
They're not the best. We'll talk about it sometime. Anywho.
Oh, there's some spiciness here I wasn't even privy to.
I've written about it. Comicsthegathering.com. Check it out.
I'm so tired of superhero movies at this point. But
I understand.
They hardly make any, though.
Yeah. We've never once made any ever.
It's only like
I was tired of it by the time this fucking
6
movie came out. How do you think I feel now? I guess this is like, I've noticed this especially, like I'd say after this movie is when the opening credits died.
Yeah.
Like when opening credits were not, like it's a fucking
God,
marathon
they just
in this.
like, I feel like there was a charm to it. And 1 and maybe 2, because 2 at least gave you the recap, you know,
yeah, but this
of
goes
what
on for
happened
like
in 1.
5 minutes.
Yeah, this one, it goes on a crazy long time. Like, it's almost like, I mean, back then, you know, nowadays it's like, oh yeah, we can get to the movie a little late. There's going to be trailers, and that's like, add another 5 minutes on top of that for the opening credits.
Like, it's all very visually nice and everything, but like, we've done this
Music's
before. This
great.
is the third movie. Yes, I will say the music's good.
Yeah.
And like the color palette's really nice. Everything is really saturated, and it looks like a comic book, and it feels like a comic book, which I can appreciate about that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as formulated as it is now, which I can appreciate. Even this stupid movie I can kind of appreciate more than the other ones that are coming out right now. But
definitely has more personality to it.
Yeah, I could tell that it was like one guy's vision, as opposed, or at least that Sam Raimi had the pilot seat in this, as opposed to the current movies, which are so producer driven. Like, the director has so little of a voice, relatively.
Did he have the pilot seat for this?
I don't know, actually.
Sam Raimi for Spider-Man 3?
No, he did not. Avi Arad, the producer, is the whole reason Venom is in this movie, actually. You can thank him for that. You can thank him for pretty much most bad Spider-Man movie the things that ruin them. You can pretty much blame Avi for that. Yeah,
that's fair, but that's
he's
like,
always trying to cram Venom and shit to sell Spider-Man merchandise.
But that could just be like aspects of the movie, as opposed to like, I don't think he wrote it. Although you said that Sam Raimi didn't even write the first 2. I mean, I'm not super versed behind the production of these movies. All I know is Sam Raimi has a very particular vision and style, and like something that these movies don't have now. I would say that none of them, no matter how many directors they go through, none of them have any like really distinctive style, except for maybe Guardians of the Galaxy.
I would say that does, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. James Gunn, amazing.
Yeah, it'd be a very different movie if anybody else did it.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, Raimi did not want Venom in this movie. He just, from what I understand,
It shows, because he's in like the back 20% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, his place in this movie is very weird and almost non-existent. And yeah, he apparently didn't want Venom in the movie at all. I mean, Spider-Man 4 was supposed to have the Vulture as the villain, I believe. And it's a shame we didn't get to see that, you know? I would have gladly taken that over Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies.
Wow. I'm so disappointed right now.
We're building up the hype for the inevitable episode when we talk about that.
There's going to be a war, my friend. I just hope you're prepared.
Yeah.
Start building your armies. But yeah, I mean, and they force Venom in it so much, it's almost like it made Sandman seem like the bad character, because every time Sandman enters, you're like, oh yeah, so Sandman's in the movie.
Here's my thing. I think Harry should have just been the single villain of this movie, because that's what the trilogy was building towards. Like at the end of 1, he thinks that Spider-Man killed his father, and then in 2 he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, and then in this movie we find him hating Spider-Man. like, it just makes sense throughout a trilogy for him to be the main villain of this movie. If they were gonna have another villain, Sandman is okay. And I think if you took the Venom shit out of this movie, it would give it time to develop Sandman and, give him some better shit to do. But unfortunately, that's just not the case.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, they're all in it so sparsely and just weirdly placed that
nobody,
they all don't belong.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're all trying to cram into the space, and so you really just get only like a third of each of them.
Well, and like the movie proper starts off with Sandman. Because we start off, we've got Peter Parker and like this whole city sucking his dick and everything. But the movie really kicks off when we have Sandman with a pretty comical underbite. And I guess somehow he wanders into this like nuclear testing facility.
Yeah,
and I fucking love these scientists because one of them's like,
there's a change in the silicon mass.
oh yeah, it's probably just a bird. It's gonna fly away. Like, you're not gonna look.
He doesn't bother to check. He doesn't notice that the silicon mass doesn't change.
I don't want to get up.
The funniest thing about that is exactly how confident he is. He's like, oh no, yeah, it's just a bird. It's gonna fly away.
How many birds have they fried in that? Are there a bunch of sand birds
So
flying
he
around?
acts like it happens every day.
Here's another question. What were they doing? What was that experiment? Like, as far as I could tell, they were just spinning sand around.
It's like putting bullshit into the sea, like what turns into sand, and then what's gonna be like a glowing ball.
Like, he falls in the pit,
radioactive energy,
and then the shit spins around in a circle, and then it slows down and stops. And it's like, what were they doing?
and everyone claps.
It sounds like typical government spending to me.
They were testing to see if birds were real.
That's true.
Do you think that was a giant Beyblade arena? Because
It would be a better movie.
That would make Beyblades way more interesting if you infuse them with radioactive energy.
They were just trying to clear out the sand pit that fell in there, and then they just wandered in.
I hate sand. Anyway.
Is there any adjectives you'd use for... Never mind.
No, another time.
Pleasant and smooth.
So...
calming.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So we catch this movie. There's tension between Harry and Peter because... for whatever reason, you
killed my dad.
He just can't seem to explain that he did not kill Norman Osborn in Spider-Man 1. Harry refuses to listen, and just basically this is a recurring theme in this movie, is just everybody's a dick who just won't listen to what anyone has to say. Their heads are so far up their own asses that they just can't be bothered to look around and see what's going on.
Everyone is out cunting each other.
Yeah,
in this
that's
movie.
like the only source of tension. And yeah, like you said, like the first two movies are like pretty like earnest, like they have like pretty, wholesome tones throughout.
That's what I say. They're wholesome.
Yeah,
That's
they're wholesome, but like this one, like everyone's just an asshole. And some people sometimes they're assholes at different times. Like people like to say that Peter is the dick throughout this whole movie, but he's not. Like at some point, he's trying to make Mary Jane feel better early on in the movie, and she's just like, no, you're not making me feel better the way that I expect you to.
I mean, he's doing it wrong in the way that she comes and she's like, I had a bad day. He's like, well, I've had bad days too, but I'm fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah, at some point.
The whole city's sucking my dick. And she's like, great, man. Like, not everyone's Spider-Man. Sorry, I'm not but at some celebrity
point,
like you are.
But at some point, he is trying to say, like, people have talked shit about Spider-Man. I know how it feels to have critics get on you. And she's just like, no, that's not about you. And he's like, I'm not saying it's about me. I'm saying I know how you feel.
He's trying to relate to her.
Yeah.
Part of it also is that Peter Parker is the world's biggest simp. He's been simping for this girl for like 20 fucking years, dude.
And now that he's got her,
40 in Spider-Man.
And they go to this when she's singing in the play, and he's singing between these two like fatter guys. And for some, I guess that's played as a laugh. And he's looking over at them. He's like, "That's my girlfriend up there." And they're like,
I'm hitting that.
Great, we don't care.
Yeah.
And then she comes out and sounds like shit. She's like, ah! And then he's like, oh, that's my little angel.
They say that falling in love is wonderful.
That's right, I've got a boner. Like,
I think just based on that, you should have played Mary Jane.
I would have been up for it. Although I did have a big crush on Kirsten Dunst growing up because of this movie.
I'm so sorry.
and then this undid all of that.
No. Like I said, I didn't think this movie was bad when I first
It's like
saw
a
it.
constant push and pull of who can be the biggest prick to the other one.
Yep.
It's a three-way finish
Yeah, this movie...
between James Franco and the other two.
Yeah. So yeah, MJ is unreasonable at points in this movie, but everyone is just generally an asshole. And especially Peter. Like at the Spider-Man parade when he's getting the key to the city, he just suggests to Gwen Stacy that they swap some spit. And I'm like, what the fuck with that, man? Like, it's not even like the crowd suggests it, but then he is like verbally, consciously himself like, let's make out.
Gives a shit.
Like he knows that Mary Jane is there.
It makes for good TV, baby. It's show business.
What the maybe we
He
should
even
kiss right
told
now.
her to look in that specific spot.
Yeah,
like, don't worry,
like-
this is going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
then he gets to Gwen Stacy. He's like, yeah, slip me some
And
tongue.
then he meets her for dinner that same night to propose to her.
Well, it's just
there's-
he's got no self-awareness.
Yeah, there's no plausible justification for why he thought it was okay to kiss Gwen in that scene. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
And then after the best scene setup ever with Bruce Campbell,
That's great.
he has the
fucking
band playing the song that she got fired for.
Well, we find out later that he didn't know she had been fired. I guess
Well,
the
because he
audience
didn't bother to ask, because he was like,
so far up his
every
own
time
ass.
she's like, oh, Peter, I'm having a bad day. Well, you know what kind of great days I have as Spider-Man? It's so fucking awesome to be Spider-Man.
It's just so hard seeing my face in every window in New York and every billboard.
You know,
Golly.
I
as
just
a
hate being worshipped and universally loved, except for J.K. Simmons and Topher Grace.
you know that
Who's such an asshole in this.
that might be one of the things that makes this a not good Spider-Man movie is that, you know, being Spider-Man, while it's fun, is kind of supposed to suck. And he's kind of just got all his shit together in this movie, and it's not as fun to watch. Like, of course, it inevitably falls apart, but it's just not it's not as fun to, you know, like, what makes 2 so great is that he's struggling throughout the whole movie, and life is just constantly giving him the middle finger. You know, it's just always kicking him in the dick.
How's he affording this apartment?
Good question.
'Cause, yeah, he lives in like a 5 by 5 foot space, and he's still probably paying like $3,000 a month in New
Yeah.
York.
To that awesome alpha male of a landlord, Mr. Ditkovich.
Well, is he awesome? He never fixed his fucking door. At the end, it's still falling apart.
Do you guys want to hear an awesome piece of trivia about him?
I do.
Go for it.
So his name is Mr. Ditkovich, an homage to the Spider-Man co-creator, Mr. Steve Ditko. Rest in peace. But apparently, Sam Raimi planned in Spider-Man 4 for there to be a big reveal. Well, not a big reveal, but a joke reveal where it turns out that his landlord, Mr. Ditkovich, is actually Kraven the Hunter. And Justin, Kraven the Hunter
He's like
is
80.
Kraven the Hunter is this Russian guy who basically hunts Spider-Man. He's like obsessed with like the hunt, and you know, he like just hunts all animals all over the world, and he's obsessed with getting, you know, their trophies and shit. And
Right. He
Yeah.
wants to collect ivory from Spider-Man.
He's
Yeah,
like if
basically.
the CEO of Jimmy John's found out that Spider-Man existed. He would
yeah,
try to hunt
basically.
him.
So yeah, there was gonna be a big reveal where it turns out he was Kraven the Hunter, which kind of would have been hilarious, but alas,
I would crave that.
I'm craving it.
That's like one villain they haven't put in a movie yet.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
They couldn't get Mr. Ditkovich back. I knew they couldn't top that casting.
He wanted too much money.
I mean,
You think that actor was like a diva about his contract?
he was like, "You give me rent."
I'm in 6 minutes of this movie.
He just wanted his rent, man.
So
$40,000 of it.
Spider-Man fights Sandman, and this movie, I think after that is when he fights Goblin Jr., and I think that's the first time we realized that, man, this movie does not look good at times.
That's true.
Yeah, we watched the Blu-ray of this, and that was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I mean-
should have stuck to DVD because holy shit.
Preserve the memory a
Yeah,
little bit better.
exactly.
Yeah, I would have a nice...
Blu-ray really brings out the green screen in this movie.
Yeah, there's some Phantom Menacing going on. I feel like it gets better early on, or maybe... I don't know if it's that it gets better, or that I just got used to it, because, yeah, that
I
first
think
scene between...
It's just noticeably
James
worse in some
Franco.
scenes. Like,
Yeah, between Green Goblin and Spider-Man, that first fight scene, I was like, oh, that's rough.
yeah, that's
Real rough.
terrible. But like when he's saving Gwen when she's being attacked by the evil crane, Like that's a good scene. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
As if the crane held some sort of spite for Gwen Stacy.
By the way, Spider-Man like saves her from falling and then just doesn't do anything about the crane. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that.
He never checked if anyone else was cool.
Yeah, like the crane just is still running amok on that building, and he's like, "Peace."
Yeah, you can hear it. You can hear it in the background.
That construction worker, R.I.P. That dude's dead.
Yeah,
he's fucking dead.
Splattered all over the ground.
Gwen's hot. So
speaking of that scene, that's when we see Topher Grace as Eddie Brock. God. All right, so unpopular opinion,
doing his best insane
Okay, yeah,
impression.
I can't wait to hear this.
I don't hate Topher Grace as Eddie Brock.
Why? He's supposed to be like 2 foot taller.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be muscle bound. He's supposed to be an asshole.
I think if you were more
he's
muscly,
a fucking skeevy,
that's the thing.
piece of shit.
My problems with Eddie Brock in this movie are more from the way he's written, not really the way that Topher Grace portrays him. You know, should he be beefier? Yes, absolutely.
Well,
but
it should have been more of a physical
fine.
bully like Eddie Brock, but they're trying to portray him as just kind of like a shitbag, but he's not even good at that.
Yo, get Flash Thompson in there. That dude's jacked.
Exactly. And going back to the crane scene again, like that's his quote unquote girlfriend he sees, and then he's taking pictures next to like her dad. And he's like, "Oh yeah,
I'm tapping it.
I'm banging her." And then we realize he's a total beta because apparently they only got coffee once, and she like threw it in his face and ran out.
Yeah, he's like,
probably deserved it.
I had such an amazing night. And she's like, you bought me Dunkin'.
And the whole time he's talking to Spider-Man about like taking his girl. Like he never had her in the first place.
Yeah, he's just...
And speaking of Topher, I also don't like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I don't think he embodies Spider-Man.
I think he's a good dork.
Yes, yes, he has the strife and all that from like Spider-Man 1 and 2, but he's not as playful. Like I guess Spider-Man's main thing for me was that his life sucks so much. He just tried to make like everything just kind of funny and see things from a positive side as best that he could. He was almost like Deadpool light, but they didn't write him like that, but I couldn't even see Topher trying to do that. It's not like he was known for comedy whatsoever.
He's like Deadpool crossed with the nerdy guy from Grandma's Boy.
I mean, basically, yeah.
He did have some funny lines in the last two movies, but yeah, they did seem to just kind of ditch it entirely in this one. And that does remind me of something else that I have mixed feelings about Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Like, I don't love him. I don't hate him. I definitely have a nostalgia for his movies, but that's beside the point.
Even Seabiscuit?
Tough one.
All right, yeah, we'll move on. we'll get to Seabiscuit.
But well, my problem with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man is that, and this is a problem in this movie, is that Spider-Man is supposed to. What makes Spider-Man stories fun a lot of time is that he's intelligent, and a lot of time it's him. What wins him the fight is not his strength; it's his brain. Like he uses his brain to figure out something clever to defeat the bad guy, but that doesn't really happen in these movies. Like, all
he did was talk about sound waves in the third one.
Yeah, like it's like, wow, you're so smart, but like the most obvious shit, like how does he beat Sandman? And then like he doesn't think to use water until like he just accidentally gets dripped on, and like same with Venom. He doesn't put it together until his best friend has died in front of him that sound hurts Venom.
It's like he skipped the tutorial.
It really bugs me, and it's like it's annoying that he has organic webs instead of web shooters that he built. But I don't need things to be exactly like the comics, so I don't really care about that as long as he shows his intelligence in other ways.
You don't get it. It's a puberty thing. The symbolism.
Well, why didn't he shoot web out of his ass then?
He got you there.
Why didn't he just cream pie people with his webs?
That was just for Gwen Stacy.
I just wish that this Peter Parker showed a smart more.
When Gwen kissed him, he just shot web everywhere. Oops. Because it's natural.
Whoops.
But speaking of that, he stumbled upon what made the Sandman weak, which was water, and they never mentioned or utilized that again. He let Harry fight him in the final scene and didn't even say, hey, there's a hydrant down there.
Yeah.
There was no mention of it whatsoever.
And jumping ahead to the final confrontation with Sandman, he just kind of stops fighting. He just kind of He's been getting pumpkin bombed in the face all night, and Harry even has a flamethrower in his flying snowboard. and he like blasts him in the face with a flamethrower, and like that's fine. But then eventually he just shoots him with a missile that doesn't create too big of an explosion.
Yeah, I don't even know what.
And Sandman's just kind of like, all right, I've had enough. Like,
yeah, we're done.
His HP was out.
Because then he just flies back up to the top of the tower.
Yeah, and he just kind of like he chills out. He taps out until Venom gets his ass kicked, and then that's it.
Would you ride a hover snowboard?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Harry looks like steep DLC.
Well, wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we haven't talked about Harry's selective immortality in this movie, where he comes out of fucking nowhere and just starts beating the shit out of Peter in like normal clothes. Peter's like going to get cigarettes, and then Green Goblin comes and kicks his ass. And so Spider-Man beats him down, and he takes quite the hit to the face. Like, he falls down fucking 3 stories, and like, he's dead. I don't care what goblin serum you have, that guy's dead. And then he wakes up in the hospital, it's like, oh, he's got amnesia. Those are my best friends.
And he also banged on emergency stairs in a dumpster before he hit the ground, too.
Yeah, he trips him with the web line in his throat.
Oh, yeah, he clotheslines him.
Yeah, he clotheslines him, and then he hits his head on a pipe, and then he hits a dumpster and hits the ground. And Peter's like, is he dead? Like, you're fucking lucky he's not dead, man.
Yeah, and then he gets a little head injury for the hospital. And then...
Also the very convenient timing of the amnesia, too.
Yeah, it's amnesia just enough for Harry to do kind of a piece of shit thing and then come to the realization of like, oh wait, I'm a piece of shit. Yeah. Also, best cooking montage I've ever seen in a movie.
Do the twist.
Hey, this is Pulp Fiction light. With them doing the fucking twist. And then Mary Jane says, oh, the butter! You're fucking up the butter! You made him dance!
Only Harry Osborn would burn butter. That's a crime down here. You get your ass killed in Georgia if you did that.
So at that point, yeah, they start making out. And yeah, he's stealing Spider-Man's girl. That's not cool.
That's particularly uncool.
Yeah, but, you know... Say la vie.
Well, like right before this, what's his name? James Franco. I forget the character's name for some reason. Harry Osborn. He looks at his butler and he's like, "Hey, you want to get me some food?"
Yeah.
And the guy's like, and then like, oh, I still need to cook it. I still need to flex to my friend's girl that I can cook eggs.
Yeah, like what if
it's like that dude's never cooked a fucking day in his life.
Man, my guy Bernard, he knew what he meant.
What if you just brought back like a sack full of McChickens or something? All he said was food.
He just shows up with like McChickens, beer, and condoms.
It's like, you're gonna need these.
Hell yeah.
So what happens next? They bang, and then...
Well, they don't bang. They like awkwardly first base, and then she dips.
And then he remembers.
Oh, and yeah, he gets this wonderful we get to see the best part of these movies, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Aside from J.K. Simmons and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe, and he's doing the "Avenge me" thing. And also, can we just talk about the fact that in Willem Dafoe's like giant evil guy mansion, he's got a huge portrait of himself on this chair, and the chair is right in front of that portrait.
He wanted it to be for scale, like so you knew how tall he was.
I want a 4-scale portrait of myself hanging in my living room.
How many times did Harry get in trouble? And then Norman invited him to his office, and he was trying to have a serious conversation, scolding him while sitting in the chair in front of the picture. You think it was really hard for Harry not to just laugh every time?
Yeah. So he becomes the Goblin Jr. again, now that he remembers that allegedly Spider-Man killed his daddy.
Yeah, that's sick snowboard.
Yeah, and he makes MJ break up with Peter, and that sucks.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Which I kind of thought was coming anyway.
Yeah,
because Peter was such a piece of shit to her. It's like, and all the things that she was saying, it's not like she came up with an excuse. She totally had like a perfectly reasonable like, hey, you're selfish. I'm lonely. You don't hear me. You see me as an extension of yourself, and you're a dick. Fuck you. And then she leaves.
Well, it's like that does everything make it perfectly valid.
Well, that does make it kind of sad, right? Is that like, I think if it weren't for Harry, you know, threatening their lives, maybe they would have worked it out, and she would have been like, "No, I love you, Peter." But
no, you're stupid. That's stupid.
Maybe, but
I also like how we just keep finding out about more and more powers from Harry. Like he has teleportation later in the movie.
Yeah, with the cake.
Oh, yeah.
He disappears from the restaurant.
Yeah,
he
because she
can't-
says on the bridge, like, oh, there's another guy. And then immediately after James Franco's
Yeah, they
like,
cut right to the coffee shop.
he's like, hey, Peter, just saying, I'm the other guy.
He eats some chocolate cake, and it is so good.
Best line of the movie.
She let me do
Maybe.
anal.
And
Toby's like, you son of a bitch.
and then yeah, for reference on that teleportation, the bus. Peter's outside staring at Harry through the window. Bus passes by, and when it's gone, Harry's gone too.
Woo!
And he can't teleport, so that means that he must have just hid under the table.
He died
Which,
and dashed.
that must have been so funny for the waitress. She just comes up, if the scene was extended, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, I mean, if Peter had just ran across the street and gone inside, he would have seen Harry hiding under the table.
Yeah, it almost looked like it kind of freaked him out.
Yeah.
Like you're fucking Spider-Man.
Well, he just did the Batman thing, which means that he died and dashed. He was sprinting down the street. He's like, fuck you.
That's true. Batman never pays for anything.
So,
Yeah. He just kind of disappears from plain sight. It's really intelligent.
Yeah, that's great.
so after this, Peter really leans in to the symbiote and just starts going full on. How would you describe him when he starts just swimming in
Oh, wait,
ladies?
we forgot to describe the circumstance of this symbiote.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
MJ
Shit, my
and
bad,
Peter
yeah.
are making out on the web, and then
Yeah,
a
so-
fucking meteorite drops, and Peter's just like, nope, pussy's calling.
Can I give some backstory on the symbiote?
go
and the
for it.
You
versus-
may not.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So in the comics,
You do, you man.
I hope you guys don't hear me say this too much, but in the comics, the symbiote is from another planet, of course, but Spider-Man is on that planet in the first place because he has been summoned along with all the other heroes and villains of the universe to fight to the death for the amusement of essentially God. And his costume gets torn, and they're like, dude, spare costume over there. And then he bonds with the symbiote and takes it home. That's it. And then here he's just making out in the park, and of all the places on Earth it could have landed, it happens to land 50 feet away from Spider-Man.
It's like a thud. It's like someone threw a rock
And
in
he
the
doesn't
sand.
notice. He's too busy making out with MJ.
And
It's
knows
weird.
enough to climb into his backpack, chill in his apartment for 2 weeks, and wait for Peter to have
Yeah.
a fever dream.
It was a while. Yeah, yeah. It was just like waiting on him to find out that Uncle Ben died. It was like, now's my chance.
Yeah, once he's thinking about it, and Tobey Maguire's face is just the worst in this. It looks like he's having a wet dream to Uncle Ben.
It does.
Uncle Ben.
And like, with great power comes great responsibility. He's like,
All he picked up was the cum part.
he's like, hell yeah, it comes, dude. But yeah, so the symbiote becomes a part of him.
It
latches
amplifies
onto him.
his characteristics, especially aggression, according to Dr. Kurt Connors.
And it turns
Of
his hair
ESU.
black.
It turns his hair black, gives him some eyeliner, which actually checks. It could do
Avenged
that.
Sevenfold shirt.
Why does that check out?
I don't know. I'm sure I could give you some kind of reason and get a
I
no
could
prize
just.
for it. But
Could you imagine when it happens? Like, just imagine like 2 little strands come from his hair and just attach around his eyes.
Gives him mascara.
well, so here's the
you
thing.
listen
right?
to A Day to Remember now.
The thing that always kind of makes me laugh when seeing Peter's hair change color in this movie and him just have eyeliner is that like the symbiote can change color and it like disguises its host a lot. So I think that Peter must have like, I know this isn't actually in the movie, so it's not really part of it, but in my mind, like he must have like told the symbiote to change his hair color and give him eyeliner.
Like subconsciously, like that's what he wanted.
Yeah, it must have just been
He wanted to be a super cool emo teen.
So speaking of super cool, a lot of people hate the scenes in this movie where
Every
Peter,
scene? I agree.
yeah, where Peter is especially when he's dancing and just being a real hunk of a man.
Well, the thing is, there's some parts in here where, because it's supposed to paint him to be like an asshole, right? But he just kind of stops being a pussy in a few parts. Like he waltzes into the newspaper office,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Hey, you're gonna give me that staff job. You're gonna double my money, motherfucker."
or
Oh, and he also calls out Topher Grace.
Yeah, more
for being
importantly.
a total douche. By the way, like the movie's trying to paint like Peter did something wrong, but it's like, no, you're giving Photoshop pictures as news.
It kind of tries to act as if like Peter wouldn't have thrown Eddie Brock under the bus if he wasn't being influenced by the symbiote. It's like, no, he absolutely would have. I mean, granted, he wouldn't have gone about it in that way. You know, he wouldn't have attacked him in the mailroom, but like he absolutely would have outed him for you know, framing Spider-Man. Because
I don't think so. I think he would have been a beta bitch through and through.
No, he would have.
Oh,
Peter wouldn't have put up with that.
Then he just remembers his apartment, and then
He would have been fine with it, but
like, and he wants to marry Mary Jane. What's he gonna do? Move her in? I hope she sells all of her shit.
he's gonna sleep in the fridge.
Hey, come sleep on my twin bed.
Hey, or he can move in with Mary Jane and pay 1/5 of the rent. And it works out for everybody.
So, after he outs Topher Grace as a great big phony.
Well, those are harsh words.
Yeah.
This is PG.
He was like, liar, liar, pants on fire, and then dabs on him.
So they go to the jazz club, where one of the best scenes happens.
This is so great.
They go to the jazz club, and Mary Jane is working there as a singer/waitress now. And he brings Gwen Stacy there, who is just somehow totally oblivious to the fact that she's being used to make Mary Jane jealous. Does that strike you guys as weird?
It's extremely weird. Like,
I mean,
you know that this girl works there, and she's like, wow, that's your ex? Isn't that weird? And he's like, wow. You want to dance in public?
Yeah.
I'm going to do like a solo piano number. I'm going to be kicking chairs across the room, fucking Tarzaning across the chandelier. And only when he looks up at Mary Jane at the end of the dance number, she's
after
like,
showing her cleavage to Mary Jane.
I refuse to believe that Tobey Maguire made her pussy gush so much that she's just completely oblivious to anything else happening.
Oh, man.
He grabs her ass in public, and she's like, ooh,
Peter.
Yeah, she's just another example of somebody being an asshole. Granted, you know, she's just being an oblivious asshole. But like,
that is a single-digit IQ.
Yeah, and that's just super weird to me. But
and she's just got like an look the entire time.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, Kirsten Dunst, I'm so sorry.
So they dance, and it's a great scene. I like that scene. I mean, it's stupid as fuck, but I love it.
That's an alpha move.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
He was a man's man in that movie.
It absolutely is. And then they get into a fight, and Peter hits Mary Jane. Ouchie. And then he gets rid of the symbiote.
Ouchie.
I mean, yeah, man, Spider-Man's got the proportionate strength of a spider. It fucking hurt.
Yeah.
You just like wave that off, like, yeah, he gets rid of the symbiote. He climbs a bell tower.
Yeah.
And has the most cinematic scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, he goes to Our Lady of Nick or something.
He's like, God, this would be a great trailer shot.
That was like one thing I can say.
You guys couldn't see it, but he had his AirPods in and he was listening to Evanescence.
That is one thing I can say that was legitimately cool, was when he was ringing the bell and the Venom was like growling off of him.
Perfect example of like awesome moments in this movie. Like there are diamonds.
Yeah, there's like the seeds of something cool here.
Absolutely. Like that's what I'm saying, man. If
filibuster it with too much bullshit.
Exactly. If you took out the bullshit, this would be an awesome movie. It's just overcrowded.
Exactly, because there's just too many cooks, right? Because Sam and his stupid brother, he drags along into every script he writes. They wanted to like write this one, and then they had the guy that wrote Spider-Man 2 kind of consult on it. Basically, he's kind of attached as like the third writer, which basically means he was just kind of making sure they weren't completely fucking it up. Then, like you said, the producer had his hands in it, putting in too many villains. It just turned into a train wreck.
Wait a second. Speaking of Sam Raimi nepotism, Bruce Campbell reprising the best fucking role in the movie.
So he plays a different character in each movie.
Well, he's still the best character in each movie as well.
Yeah, somehow. Like, get this man an Oscar.
It's obvious.
Do you guys want to hear? I don't know if this is true, but I read it somewhere. Apparently, he was going to play Mysterio at some point, which would have been pretty funny if he just somehow knew who Spider-Man was and was just fucking with him the whole time.
He should have played Mysterio in Far From Home.
That would have been cool as shit.
Wasn't he like the... I don't remember who he wasn't too. Wasn't he like the wrestling announcer in
he
one?
was the wrestling announcer in one,
and like the theater.
He was like, sir, your shoelace.
Oh,
can I help you? No, you
Maybe
will not
it
be
is the
seated.
same.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the same character. Maybe it'll
Yeah, maybe
holds
he's just
down
been
multiple
between
jobs.
He's a real
committed to the
Renaissance
bit.
man, Bruce Campbell.
Well, but then again, his job in Spider-Man 3 is so prestigious that he has like
He has
like a
whistle.
slide whistle. And then a guy brings him a pen on a pillow, and that's like his only job.
Yeah.
He gets like $9 an hour.
And it's amazing. And while he's supposed to be taking Mary Jane to this fancy restaurant, which my man's crying poverty and living in like the dumpiest shithole that you can imagine. And then he's like, let's go to a fucking 5-star French restaurant, whatever. And he does the whole shtick where he tells Bruce Campbell, like, hey, can you put the ring in the champagne? And then when I say, like, bring it over to us because I'm proposing my girlfriend today. And he's like, oui, yes. And so while this whole train wreck is going on, he keeps, like, accidentally signaling past Mary Jane, and then Bruce Campbell's like, oh, here it comes. He brings his cronies out,
like,
and
no,
then
no, no.
and he's like, no, don't do it. He's like, get the fuck out. And these two guys those are the most abused people in this movie.
Yeah, it's a funny scene, man. Like, all that stuff is great.
Like, legitimately the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Aside from, like, the meme moments, like the pie and the
Oh, this is such...
Topher Grace being Topher Grace.
This
like,
is such a memeable movie, as is, as you can see on r/Raimi memes. If you haven't checked it out, there's an entire subreddit dedicated to memes from Sam Raimi movies, especially the Spider-Man trilogy.
So good.
And man, yes, so good. This, man, I mean, I never thought he'd really do that, but I made a judgment call, you know?
Well, I mean, so the comedy in it was really funny, but it was also forced at the same time. It was definitely very Raimi-esque. I think that's where the comedy of it came from, because all of his movies are super campy, and that just changed the entire tone when him and his brother wrote it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Because the first one... Okay, so you like 2, then 1, then 3. Harlan, right?
Yeah.
And Justin...
I like 1, then 2, then 3.
Why do you like
else.
anything better than the second one?
That's a good question.
I just don't find 2 to be as...
When's the last time you watched 2?
Probably like maybe a couple of years ago? 2 or 3 years ago,
Really?
maybe?
Really?
I don't remember. I mean,
Unbelievable.
I know I saw it in the theater. I don't think it's shitty. Like, you guys are giving me dagger eyes right now, but I'm not...
Dude's
Like-
fucking great, man.
Just, God, you see him? Just Justin sitting over there with his tiny wiener.
No.
Unbelievable.
So,
No, only large-dicked gentlemen think that Spider-Man 1 is the best one.
I mean, Spider-Man 1, it had an actual, like, competent writer for the time.
well,
He...
behemoth dicked gentlemen know that Into the Spider-Verse is the best. I just want to make that clear.
that is true.
I just want to make that clear. Sorry, continue.
But, like, Spider-Man 1, I mean, that guy, he wrote some good movies, he wrote some bad movies. It's just kind of like the quintessential, like, just average Hollywood writer.
Yeah.
David Cope, he wrote Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, but he also wrote Snake Eyes and Panic Room, shit like that.
Panic Room's fucking great.
Panic Room's great. Yeah. But then,
I fucking love Panic Room. I watch Panic Room over this any day of the week.
Spider-Man 2 was written by Alvin Sargent, which is known for, like, dramas, and he won, like, an Oscar in, like, the 60s or 70s.
I think he passed
He was
away
almost
and,
80 years old when he wrote Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, he
shows.
passed away, I want to say back in May. And yeah, man, that made me really sad, because I think he did a great job with it. But,
Sucks.
yeah. Losing all the good Spider-Man writers.
Well, now I feel bad for talking shit about Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not even
should.
talking shit about it. I'm talking, like, neutrally about it. I'm like, it's fine. It's good.
Well, talking neutral about it, the
I'd
way
give
you
the
are,
first one a
pissing
7
me
and
off.
give the second
Yeah,
one
it
like a
deserves,
6.
it deserves better.
It felt like the first Spider-Man was the first of its kind, and for
That's a good point.
better
Yeah,
or
it
for
was-
worse, it created a lot of these superhero movies. I
Yeah.
think at least alongside X-Men. Didn't X-Men come
Yeah,
around?
yeah,
the same time as
X-Men-
The
this?
first one was 99.
Well, it was like
And-
Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man, and it's hard to say like which one really launched it.
I fucking love Blade.
I can I confess I haven't seen Blade. Never seen Blade.
Have you seen Blade 2?
No.
Have you seen Blade 3?
Why would I have seen Blade 2 or 3 if I haven't seen Blade 1?
I don't know. Maybe you're some kind of weirdo. I don't know. Have you seen the Blade Spike TV series?
Some sociopath.
No, I've only read a little bit of Blade, but
You've watched Cool Cat Saves the Kids instead of Blade.
yeah, you got me.
I haven't watched Blade since I think I saw it on TV when I was like really little, but I don't remember anything about it.
So
see, the problem is it's not bad enough to do on here.
yeah.
Many people disagree.
Talk about good movies too. Fuck.
So Peter gets rid of the symbiote in the chapel. Yes, back to Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
That's what we're here for. So
Non sequiturs.
he gets rid of the symbiote, and yeah, awesome scene with the effects of it, like yeah, really cool shit. And yeah, then he goes home, takes a shower, and just kind of vibes on the floor in his room. and then shit hits the fan
listens to Waking the Fallen.
When Venom and Sandman, who, yeah, did you forget about Sandman? Because I sure fucking forgot about Sandman. Like, Sandman just fucking fucks off and disappears for so much of this movie.
I had to write down notes for Sandman to remember to talk about him.
Yeah, like Sandman's an awesome character, right? Like he's sympathetic, and he wants to do good, which, you know, is like you can easily make a good story out of a character like that. Even like as vaguely as I just described him, you can make something good out of that. But unfortunately, he's just in this movie for such a relatively short amount of time. So yeah, he just kind of like, it's like, oh, he's not dead. I forgot about that. He's just kind of robbing banks again, I guess, somewhere in Brooklyn.
Yeah, he just shows up.
Yeah, and Venom just hunts him down for a team up. And how did he find him? Like,
I guess Venom and Brock just chilled and like had his pad, watched the news or something, smoked a bowl.
I guess. So they team up.
And they're like, you know what? This guy fucks. They went after him. They knew exactly the alleyway to find him in.
So they team up and kidnap Mary Jane, who has just been useless for a while.
For all three movies.
Yeah.
She's just kind of there.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate that she's just a plot device through all three of these. It's not like a terribly original critique, but she does nothing through all three of these movies, and that, I guess, fits Kristen is it Kristen or Kirsten Dunst?
It doesn't matter.
Kirsten Dunst, whose default expression is like, this whole series. And then through half of this movie, she's just like, but Peter, I want to be a bitch.
I think she's better than people give her credit for as a character in these movies. But yeah, 3, again, everyone's just an asshole in this movie. So yeah, that goes for her too. She sucks.
Whenever you think that someone said the most asshole prick thing they could,
yeah, they just keep one-upping themselves.
5 seconds later, someone else slinks into the scene and just starts.
James Franco just gives that smile. He's like, "Hey,
yeah,
I'm high for Pineapple Express.
He's the same
I'm checked out of this movie."
Is Pineapple Express a prequel?
So yeah, they fight, and I don't have too much to say about the end there, except, it looks really bad at some points.
It's very busy. There's a lot going on. It just becomes exhausting after a point.
I will say, when Peter and Harry finally team up to fight Venom and Sandman, that's a really cool moment, because you got to remember that, like, this was before the Avengers came out, and, like, hero team-ups just weren't really a thing at the time. So even if it was within its own universe, and, its own single movie, seeing them team up like that was pretty fucking cool.
That's true, because the only one you really had before that was X-Men, but they were, predetermined
their
to team
own
up.
thing. Yeah, it's not really the same.
They're established as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay enough with that twist. I would have preferred for it to come at, like, the beginning of the movie, rather than doing the Green Goblin hates Spider-Man again. Mm-hmm. But also, like, they could have cut down quite a bit. This is 139 minutes, and quite a lot of it is bullshit.
Yeah.
A lot of it's Peter vibing,
there's
talking to Aunt May.
Yeah, there's just too much of a lot of things in this movie. So yeah, they fight, and it doesn't look good. Man, when
Sandman's the worst. No-neck Sandman?
Yeah, Sandman he's just going, which I always thought was weird. And yeah, especially when, Peter and Harry are flying around on his snowboard, man, it doesn't look good. Like you pointed out, Justin, one scene in particular when Mary Jane is falling and they catch her and then slingshot her back up and somehow don't, snap her neck. It just fucking looked awful. We rewound it, and it was you said it looked like Sims 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because they
It's pretty bad.
computer generate her face, and if you're going to do that, because this is 2007, I know that I can only shit on things so much, and as far as the effects in this movie, I think that 60% of it looks as good as I can reasonably expect it to. Like a lot of the scenes, not no
fair.
neck Sandman, but like Sandman and his normal effect looks okay.
Yeah.
It's as good as I can reasonably expect for 2007, but yeah, there's just some parts of this that look like garbage.
Yeah, like I mean, like
why
even,
computer animate someone's face? Like,
Yeah.
why even have them in the front? Why not just have it be like hair that flies by? You don't have to have a face in there at all because she just looks zanned out.
Plus, they had to construct her entire face model just for that like half a second. They
yeah,
swung
like
by.
who would even care?
Yeah, it's like most people aren't going to notice it, and then there's going to be nerds like us that pick it apart and think it's trash.
Well, you know, it looks bad when me, who again I saw this movie when I was about 11. I was happy with this movie. I had a good time with it, and I thought it was great. But even like one shot in particular, when Venom kicks Spider-Man into the ceiling and then he falls on the ground, like that shot in particular just looked awful to me. It's entirely CG, and it just like stuck out, and like I was pretty easy to please. So if that stuck out even to me, it looks bad. I got a pretty low bar.
You're not frame by framing all of this?
No, I can't.
Like, no, I just look real. Fuck.
I got a low bar. So yeah, they fight. Harry dies, and Spider-Man finally realizes that, I need to use sound to kill the symbiote.
But we've got some reincorporation
Fucking-
because James Franco at the beginning when he's got the amnesia and he's all drugged out, he's like, those are my friends.
I'd give 'em my
I'd
life."
fucking die for them. The nurse is like, neat. And so then, rather
great.
than just,
Just like K and walks
rather than Peter just rolling out of the way, James Franco's like, nope, I gotta be in Pineapple Express. Like, I gotta check out this fucking movie.
To be fair, he was webbed up. He couldn't roll out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie's a lot smarter than you thought.
Good point. I got outsmarted by Spider-Man 3.
It's a thinking man's film.
My brain's already leaking out of my ears.
Yeah. Where do you study? At the gym? The library? Spider-Man 3.
You gotta sip it like a fine wine.
So yeah, Harry
I
dies.
study at the movies subreddit.
Harry dies, and big sad for Sticky Steve.
Shout out to my boy Sticky Steve.
Yeah, what a G. And then he finally fucking uses the bars to kill Venom, and I always thought that scene was cool as shit. Like, even if now on the Blu-ray I realize, that did not look good, but I always thought that was cool as shit to watch. And maybe that was enough to satisfy me.
You know what didn't look cool?
All of it.
Well, yeah. Venom was like on screen for like 10 minutes, and like 8 minutes of it was just showing Topher Grace's fucking face with fangs.
I think
The Venom thing actually looked really cool.
Yeah, I think
and they barely showed it.
I think that the effects for Venom look pretty damn good. Actually,
They look too good. They couldn't afford to keep it.
Yeah,
So it's like, you know what? We're gonna fang you.
I think they look. I think it looks really good. Even if I wish they went with a different design for Venom.
Different person, different design.
Yeah, different everything, or just
movie.
didn't put him in the movie.
He's got some serious traps in this movie. He's been working out.
Yeah.
Because you get like little wimpy Topher Grace, and then he looks like The Rock when he's actually Venom.
That's what he should have looked like without the symbiote. But so yeah, they fight, and
newspaper photographers are known for being ripped.
apparently in the Marvel universe, yeah. Anything else? Yeah, they die, and then
We have the funeral scene we've seen in everything ever.
Yeah, well, yeah. Every Raimi Spider-Man movie has to end with the funeral.
Wait, so one thing I
Yeah.
forgot. Just going back to the ending scene. Why was all the random trucks and cars webbed up there? That seemed like a lot of effort.
Yeah, so
a plot device, dude.
Venom
Well, that's
Venom tricks Mary Jane into getting into a cab with him, and then off screen, he somehow gets the taxi 80 stories high. That's what the reporter says. She says it's 80 stories in the air, and suspends it with his webbing. And then even higher above that, probably at least another 15 stories, there is like a giant ass truck that is filled with cinder blocks. And what was the point of that? Like, just
Stage hazards.
Just imagine some guy was at home, ordered off Amazon, just waiting for his cinder blocks to show up, and the Venom just swoops in and
The
takes it.
drone got stuck.
Oh, and before the fight, when Peter finally dons his good old red and blues again,
The red, white, and blues.
Hell yeah.
well, yeah. So there's a lot of forced patriotism in the Raimi trilogy, and the first one, I get it. 9/11 just happened. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. This is New
rah
York.
rah USA.
Yeah, I get it in the first one. Second one, meh.
Yeah, like
This
late
one, like-
Bush administration, we're fucking over it.
So yeah, they have that scene where he runs in front of the American flag, and I'm sure 12-year-old me was like, USA, USA. But now I'm kind of like, ugh, that does not stick out. Like in a Captain America movie, okay, sure, but
Yeah,
this,
that makes sense.
yeah, this, nah. Like it's like they were like, oh, he's red and blue, our flag's red and blue. There's something there.
Yeah.
You just know that all the boomer dads in the theater were like, yeah, because that happened.
Ugh. So
Hoorah!
Hoorah.
yeah, forced patriotism. I think that's about all I got to say about this movie.
What? You don't want to go on?
Oh, dude,
wait a
I
second.
know
There's
you
there's
guys
a
have.
Topher Grace line. It's when he says at the end, he's like, I like being bad.
It makes me happy.
me happy.
Yeah, this is a very quotable movie, like for bad reasons.
It's like, what fucking writer looked at that and was like, yep, that's profound. That's going to be the opus of our villain, of one of our 8 villains that we have in this.
Yeah.
That's his thesis.
All right, I guess kind of semi in closing here. So this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking directly in Harlan's eyes when I say this. What was
I
the
agree.
thing? What was the thing that pissed you guys off the most about it? Or at least the thing that bothered you the most about it?
That everyone is an asshole. Just
That's
everyone is just an asshole to everyone in this movie.
Mine's similar. I think it's because everyone's a fucking moron.
Yeah,
Like
that's
Harry,
same thing really. Like everyone's
Yeah.
either an asshole or just stupid in this movie.
because like Harry just never thought to think, oh yeah, my father was stabbed with 2 giant blades in the stomach. That must have been Spiderman.
Yeah.
Like he's slinging around New York with a fucking sword.
Yeah.
He's got like a scimitar on him.
I mean, yeah, we've got 3 largely unlikable characters. I think that the movie's too busy. I think it's too bloated and long.
Definitely.
This is 2 hours, but it feels like 2 years. Like, yeah, the seeds of a good movie are here, but there's just so much padding and so much bullshit around it. And yeah, I was just kind of over it by this point.
I'm sure there's like a fan cut of this movie somewhere where Harry is just the villain, and I'm sure it's only like maybe an hour long or so, but that's a better movie.
Where it just ends when Peter straight up murders him with the
Yeah.
grenade, which goes off right next to his face, and he's just like, nope, burn victim.
Yep.
It blows up, fades to black, credits.
Yeah, it's next to that scene. That's like how it goes.
Nah, I need some Rambo level gore if you're setting a grenade off next to James Franco's face.
I want the next Spider-Man to be like Logan.
So
Not a single brutal murder.
I'd like to know. This movie is rated PG-13. Where should the fuck be in this movie?
Yes,
one fuck.
They utilized one fuck in a PG-13 movie. I don't even think they said shit.
That's a pretty light PG-13.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not too violent.
I honestly, like, but today's standards, it'd probably be PG, pretty much. But I think at the very, very end, when Flint Marco's like, I didn't choose this. All I have left is my daughter. I think Peter Parker just said, I fucking forgive you. And then he turns into sand and flies off.
No, I think that the fuck should have come. How's the pie? So fucking good.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So
That's
that's the
it.
obvious. I didn't even think about that.
That's the best answer, Justin. I guess I will say probably when Peter thinks he's killed Sandman and he says good riddance, good fucking riddance,
Oh, that would have been perfect.
Super
Just to
edgy.
show
Super edgy.
this isn't your dad's Spider-Man.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Or if it's just an added line, like when he dunked on Eddie Brock by proving his like.
I was thinking
Photoshop
something
things,
like that, too.
Get fucked, and he just dabs on him and walks out.
I keep
pretty much
calling
any-
him Topher Grace because I forgot his name. Wait, Edward Brock Jr. Because he tells fucking God this. He's in his church.
He's
telling
like,
the
God,
big Christ.
It's me, Eddie. Are you there?
This is my social security number. And I want you to kill that motherfucker, Tobey Maguire. God damn it, he ruined my fucking movie.
So-
This was my movie debut. Fuck.
You guys never asked God to kill somebody?
I didn't like ask it to his face.
Well, I mean, being in
I,
League
like,
of Legends,
sent it-
being like, fucking die, God. That doesn't really count.
No, I didn't go to a church and say like, God, Wes was being a real dick today. Just fucking kill him. I'm not making that drive.
Get up on a Sunday. Chick-fil-A's not even open.
Like an asshole.
Well, anything else?
that's Spider-Man 3. That's probably the most contentious movie of the series, of any of them.
Yeah.
Of like
Definitely.
people that will defend it to the dying breath and then people that nail it to the cross.
I don't know anyone that really likes this movie. I only at best know people like me who think it's not terrible. It's bad, not terrible though.
I feel like most people, aside from us, have just kind of forgotten that it exists.
Maybe
It just kind of fell into the...
maybe I would hate it more if worse superhero movies since hadn't come out. Like Fantastic Four from 2015. Stay tuned.
Dun, dun, dun.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Is that it? We just cut there?
I'd say, may just have like an ending.
Well, I feel like if we ended there,
thanks.
we have to do Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
next.
I don't want to do. I don't want the next one to be a superhero movie.
Yeah.
We could do like a small ending thing, like, thanks for listening. This is, we're all dumber now. This has been B-Roll Boiz.
Well, thanks for listening. Our IQs are significantly lower, and I'm gonna go dive under a tractor. See you guys next week.
See you next week.
B-Roll Boiz
Out,
out.
boys!